everyone, this is Renee Romeo of ReneeRomeo.com, and you're here today for my pantry build and pantry organization video. You notice I'm standing in front of the former location of my kitchen refrigerator. It's been relocated to a different space, and I'm going to be taking over this space for organization of pantry items. I'm going to be adding some shelves with some simple materials like simple pine and poplar, and it's going to be easy to do, and it's going to create a ton of extra storage. So if you have a space like this and you can go ahead and move your refrigerator to a different location in your kitchen, that's a great option. But another option is if you have a coat closet nearby your kitchen, it's the perfect place to take that space over and add some extra pantry items. And you can get the complete materials list on my website, ReneeRomeo.com, in the commentary below this video. And here's my very rough sketch of what it's going to look like when it's finished. So the great part about creating this custom pantry is that you control the distance between each and every shelf. So this is really custom to you. Whatever you put in your pantry, if you stock large items, you can create large shelves. If you stock small items, you can create smaller shelves. So I'm going to have some roll-out shelving here that's really going to make it super easy to find any item that I'm looking for in an instant. Now your project might differ a little bit from mine. I happen to find matching kitchen cabinet doors in the basement of the house that we bought. So I was really lucky, and this is really going to wind up looking very, very custom. Now, if you don't have that ability, you actually can purchase kitchen cabinet doors at your local big box store, or you could build these out of plywood, and I'll show you how easy it is to actually hang a kitchen cabinet door and apply hinges to this project. So the first thing we need to do is take a tape measure and measure out exactly where we want our shelving to be. So typically a shelf is 11¼ inches from the bottom of one shelf to the top of another shelf, and that really accommodates most pantry items. But again, this is custom to you, so you can put them anywhere you'd like. I also have to be aware in my case, because I have 3 individual doors from top to bottom, that I have a piece of wood going across this at those areas where the doors are going to meet so that you can't see into the pantry itself. I've made a nice level line on all 3 sides of my opening, and that represents the very top of the shelf. But my shelving material is actually 3/4 inch thick, so I need to make sure that I have another line below that at 3/4 inch lower that represents the bottom of the shelf. Now that's what I'm interested in knowing, because I'm going to be attaching this 2x4 material to that bottom line so it supports that shelf nice and strong. You also have the option of using 1x material like this on all 3 sides of your opening if you're using a closet. Now a closet has drywall and 2x4 material behind it, so you can actually make this really sturdy with just a small piece of wood like this. But my material is actually pretty flimsy on both sides of this opening, so I would like something a little more substantial along the back to handle the weight and the load of all the pantry items. Now I'm using a stud finder to find all the studs in the back wall. Now that this is cut out for the outlet, I can attach this to the wall permanently. I'm using 3-inch screws, and I'm using a drill bit. Now the drill bit that I'm using, hopefully you can see here, if you hold it up to know you're doing this properly, you'll be able to see that the drill covers the shank, but not the spirals that go around it. That's how you drill properly through 2x4 to make sure this is going to attach nice and tight. And then here's my secret weapon to get that screw to go in really easily. So I have a little bit of bar soap here, and I'm just rubbing it across the spirals on that screw. It's going to go in so easy. Now that the 2x4 material is nice and secure to the back wall, I'm going to start concentrating on the side walls. Now I'm using 1x2 pine material for this, and all I'm really doing here is making sure that the shelving isn't going to sag in this direction. Now this is how it's going to sit. So it's going to line directly up with the top of this 2x4, all the way over nice and level to the mark that I made for the bottom of the shelf. So the shelf is going to sit right here. The way that I'm going to attach this pine is I'm taking a corner brace like this, a little tiny thing, and then I'm going to take this brace just like this, attach it to the 2x4, and then again to the bottom of the 1x, so I get a nice strong hold. So all the side pieces are installed and they're flapping here in the front until I'm ready to actually attach the shelf and get this all buttoned up. But what I'm doing now is working on the platform for the bottom. So I installed a bracket here and I also have a bracket here, and I'm just going to slide this on just like this. And then I'm just going to attach this through the side and into this panel. And prior to installing the shelving, I'm using Bullseye 123 primer to prime over all of this factory printing. Each one of the shelves gets measured in 4 different places. So here's my outdoor setup for cutting this 4x8 sheet of melamine particle board. It's what I'm using for the shelving. It's got a really nice factory coating on it. Really easy to clean. In case something spills, I'll be able to wipe it up in an instant and not have it ruin the shelving. And you can see, because I'm cutting alone, I have 2 sawhorses and then some things kind of piled up on either end, so when I cut, the actual product doesn't go flying on the floor and ruining all the corners. So if you're cutting alone too, you might want to consider that as well. I also have a circular saw, so I'm using the circular saw that's going to be cutting through this. And if you're not confident with making a nice straight line with your circular saw, you can actually get a clamp like this. Now this clamp is really nice as a straight edge. One side goes on one side of the product, the other side kind of gets shorn up to that, and really making a nice tight clamp so you can run your saw all along and make a really clean, nice straight line. But you know what? In my case, I don't need to be all that precise because I'm going to be placing each shelf in its place and then caulking all around the 3 sides. Now I'm measuring for length, so I have 50 inches. So what I'm going to do is use this really great T-square. Now this is 48 inches. I recommend you getting one of these for your workshop too. It's so handy and I use it all the time. Makes a nice square edge all the way along the product. It's also important to note that you're using the factory edge as your front facing side. Now the reason why you do that is because you want this to look perfect. The other 3 sides you might have to cut. They won't look as perfect as the factory edge will. And if I didn't have the extra boxes underneath this, this would have gone flying. So same setup as before, I'm just cutting it lengthwise. So before I install the bottom shelf, I wanted to show you how I create this nice platform at the bottom of the pantry closet. Now this is going to elevate all the products off the floor so they won't get ruined. In case something spills, your products won't get all wet and destroyed. So what I've done here is I've taken 4 2x4s, and they're actually the length from the floor to the top of this 2x4. And I've also installed another 2x4 across the front. Now this is inside the cabinet and it spans from the 1x to the 1x. Well, the factory edge looks perfect, and now I'm going to move on to the next shelf. So I'm going to be assembling this one at a time, and I have a smaller level here, so the level is set on top of this 1x material, and I've made a mark at the top here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another 1x piece of material and I'm going to set it on top of this shelf, and I'm going to run it up the wall to this mark. And I'm ready to secure the poplar, the bottom shelf, and the side pieces for the next shelf. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to pre-drill for 4 drywall screws along that back edge. It's going to secure directly through that 2x4 underneath it. It's really sturdy. But what I'm doing now is I'm going to take some more of these little brackets and I'm just going to mark them in place, and I'm going to use these every single piece I have for every single shelf. And in case you're having trouble getting the shelving in the place that it needs to be, you can always slide it in place on top of that back 2x4, and then you can take your side pieces and just place them in the side, one and then the other, and then you can secure everything from underneath after the shelf is in its place. So in order to make all these dark lines disappear underneath the shelving, I'm using painter's caulk. So this is just white, and all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put it in my caulk gun and squeeze out the product all the way along the edge, and then I'm going to take a wet rag. I'm going to wet my finger, and I'm just going to drag my finger over the top just like this, And see how nicely that fills it in. It makes it look super professional. Because I'm using existing doors, I needed to go ahead and make this opening space a little smaller. So what I've done is I've taken 1.5 inch poplar. This is going to stain up really well and match the existing trim. I've already installed one side, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to install this side. So I have a couple of bar clamps here. I'm just going to make sure everything is nice and lined up along the front face, and I'll just tighten this up. Then I can choose my location for my screw, go ahead and drill, and then insert the screw with the help of a little bit of liquid soap. It's going to help this go in much easier. Now I'm cutting the front of this bottom shelf, and what I'm using is 3/4 inch poplar, just like the other sides, only this board is a lot wider. So what I've had to do is, to get my measurement, I had to take it outside and actually rip it along the length of the wood. And now I have a beautiful, perfect cut. I've trimmed both ends, and now this is going to slide in place just like this. A really nice tight fit. So it's going to just slide right in, and it'll stain up beautifully. I'm applying all the poplar trim to the front of the shelving with my brad nailer and compressor. Now, if you don't have a brad nailer and compressor, you can actually use some finish nails and a hammer. It'll work out just great. The key to success of this pantry cabinet are these pull-out cabinet organizers. Now, they're made of metal, they're heavy duty, they handle a lot of weight, and they only install with 4 screws directly into the top of the shelves. So I've spaced them evenly throughout my space. I have 3 across. This is going to afford me a ton of storage space for all of my pantry items. The rollouts are all loaded, and I've stained and polyurethaned all the bare wood to match my existing kitchen cabinets. Now, I did that with the help of Sherwin-Williams color matching program for stain. It matches perfectly, and as you can see in this photo here, I have 3 different species of wood all matched perfectly to my existing cabinetry. Now it's time to install the doors, and whether you built your own cabinet doors or you have existing ones like I do, you're going to need to install your hinges. Now, in my case, I'm using the European hinge like this. Now, this European hinge is the type that you don't see, but you do need to drill the specialty hole to accommodate the hinge. And I'm heading over to my friend, master woodworker Chester Spears' workshop to get this hole drilled perfectly. He's going to show us exactly how it's done. And please head over to his YouTube channel too. He's got some great projects for you to check out as well. So I'm in Chet's amazing workshop here, and he's going to help me locate all the new hinges in the backs of my doors. So I brought these down, and come on in, Chet, and you can really get in here and tell us exactly how we need to drill for these and make sure they're in their proper space.
So Renee, you brought me the existing doors off your cabinets.
Right.
And the doors we have here are going to be the replacements. Let me just show them this real quick, is that this is the Bloom hardware that came off of this. And you see here there are 2 plugs that are plastic, and those are the commercial way of putting these in. They come with them on. But what we're going to do, since we don't have that major machinery,
right, we're DIYing it.
Yeah, we're going to remove these from this, and we're going to replace these bolts with screws.
Right.
And that'll go into the new cabinet doors. And this is a specific millimeter size, and they're in millimeters because they're European hinges, and so they're in millimeters. But any cabinet shop, even some of the big box stores, will have the proper drill that you need for this, and we'll get to that in a moment.
Sure.
And because she measured the cabinets that had Bloom hinges in it, we're using the Bloom hinges to measure up 4 inches, which is what she had measured from the edge of the cabinet to this edge here.
Right.
And we did the same thing on the other side, but to this side.
Yep.
So once we had that, we were able to determine the center of the hole and where we want it. We're going to transfer that line all the way to the edge of the cabinet.
Perfect.
So from here to here.
And then here.
And we do the same thing here. So that way, when we get over to the drill press and we've got a little jig that we're going to set up, we know that this line here is going to meet the and match the line that we have on our jig.
Okay. So this is Chet's incredible drill press. This is the tool that we're using to actually drill those holes perfectly in the backs of the cabinets. Now the reason why we're using this tool instead of a power drill that you might have in your own arsenal at home is because you need to make a precise hole for this. You don't want it wobbling around. This keeps it nice and plumb and even as it's going through the wood, and it's going to stop at a precise spot so you're not drilling directly through the door. So let's get Chet over here and explain the setup for this.
All right, so thanks, Renee. Like you said, this is a really old drill press. This one belonged to my father. And what's really important about any drill press is that, number one, what you said about bringing the depth down. You see, I can set here these little wheels, and the drill won't go any deeper than that, and so it won't go through the door. That's important. So the nice thing about a drill press is it's not only very stable and keeps this drill bit from wobbling around to make sure that your hole in the door is going to be very precise. We want to make sure that we don't get a lot of scarring and stuff on the side. And if we try to use that smaller drill that we talked about, when you put this in, it could wobble around and really mess up the whole look of the door. So what we've done here is we've put a piece of wood behind here as a jig so that we know what to go up against. And we've drawn a line on that piece of wood here so that we know that where we're going to drill the hole, we can line up the cabinet door to that line, and then when it comes down to it and we bring the drill press down, it'll line up properly with the hole. So this has some slots in the top of the table here, and what we've done is use two different ways of holding down the jig. We put the piece of wood sideways because the cabinet doors are kind of large and they can be difficult to manipulate. So we're going to have two people helping holding the doors while we do this to keep them from wobbling. And one person will operate this, which will bring the drill bit down into the door the way we want. The gap between the wood and the drill bit is the same as the gap on the cabinets that we looked at, the doors. So we measured from this point and this point, and we clamped down the piece of wood. This is called a hold fast, and it clips through a bolt and attaches to the table. And over here, since we only had one of these, we just used a C-clamp, but we put up another piece of wood underneath so that the two would stay flat when we're doing this. And there are nice hobbyist drill presses that you can buy from the Big Lot store, and be able to set this up in your own home. And if you don't have the C-clamps and things, perhaps you have these quick grips clamps that Renee has used in other videos, and these are very handy, and you can use them in the same way. And we're just going to wrap the table with this. Simple like that.
Okay.
And now we don't have to worry about them being scratched.
Right.
Here we go.
I have 6 doors total that are going to be covering up this pantry cabinet, and I'm locating the bottom door first. So what I'd like to do is have it line up exactly with the top of this drawer. So I'm taking a small level here, and I'm just going to make a mark onto the faced front of this cabinet right there. So this is where the top of the door needs to be. So now that I have that located, I can hold up my door with the hinge on it and make a mark at each hinge. Even though every hinge is different, I have 3 screws here that are going to allow me to align this door correctly to the cabinet frame. The screw that attaches directly to the frame is going to allow the door to move up or down. The screw in the front is going to move it left to right, and the screw in the back is going to align it front to back. All you have to do is turn the screws clockwise or counterclockwise to get the perfect fit. The doors are all aligned. I've added some beautiful hardware and also some felt pads anywhere the back of the door is going to touch the front of the shelving. Then I finished the project up with Howard's Restorer Finish. You can see this as a review on my website, reneeromeo.com. If you're interested in this great product, it really revived the doors that have been stored in the basement for several years. I hope you enjoyed watching this project, and I hope you try this project out for yourself. You're going to gain an incredible amount of storage and organization from building your own kitchen cabinet pantry in your kitchen. It's going to be beautiful, it's going to be functional, and it's going to last for years and years to come. And as always, please like, share, subscribe, and follow. I would so appreciate it. And if you're interested in any of the products that I use during this project video, please visit my shop page at reneeromeo.com as well, where you can purchase all of these items for yourself. Thanks for watching.